Well, good afternoon. I'm kbrin, and I've asked my friends to be here for a conversation that I can share some thoughts, and I hope that it will be understandable and helpful. The topic today is going to be the mystery of the finite, which is kind of an interesting topic to start with, and to title it that way. There's no mystery in the finite. I mean, in a sense, there isn't, because the finite is what science is looking at all the time. The outside of things, and the measurable, the touchable, what can be smelled and heard and felt with our five senses. That's kind of the definition of everything that's finite in a way. And so, although I'm going to give some different thoughts to that, that's kind of the sense of the finite that I'm looking at. Now, in order for me to want to talk about this finite, I'd like you to use your imagination a little bit. What I want to do is if it were possible to imagine in your mind, we're going to a little video script of the Trinity having a conversation with itself. If we're going to talk about the Trinity being that which is divinity, has got three phases. We've used other terms in the past, but I kind of like the word phase. By way of comment, to introduce that, I am a man, I am a husband, I am a bishop, I am a friend, a brother, and all these different parts to me are different phases, but they're just me. And so, in a way, that's kind of what I'm trying to say, that when we don't get too caught up in our theology on Trinity here, but just simply say that there are three phases in divinity that I will explain or expound on for a moment. First of all, if we take a look at a traditional list of the three, might be Father, Son, and Spirit. That would be one of the three way of saying the three phases. I'm going to use a slightly different way of saying it, and that is speaker, spoken, and speaking. And when I say that, imagine the Ave, the Creator, Father, whatever term we use for that part of divinity, and looking at and seeing self, and begins to speak the word of self, but it's spoken so completely and so richly and so full that the very word that is spoken is divinity. So you have a speaking, one who's speaking, one phase speaking, and one who's the speaker, that both are divinity. Now those two phases, in a sense, can look at each other and see their beauty and magnificence and so on, and their attraction to each other, and the giving and receiving of that attraction to each other is a love that is so complete it's divinity, and that's the Spirit. So you have three phases of divinity in that kind of a view. Now, that is what divinity is doing right now. Divinity is speaking the word is receiving that word. They're both giving and receiving of themselves back and forth, and that's what goes on in divinity. That's one of the things that goes on in divinity. If we get a little bit mysterious with all that, don't be nervous about it, because mystery is a key to everything I'm going to try and talk about today. And so, as one author, Richard Rohr, put it so well, if you try to figure this out, you'll get kind of your brain kind of tied up in a knot. So just think of it as he titled his book, The Divine Dance. And so we best understand divinity when we dance with divinity, and not necessarily try to analyze as fully and completely as we would want. to see it in our mind. So with that little introduction, now with 3 phases of divinity, let's use the imagination of them having a little conversation. And this conversation is going on before they've done anything about creation, before the Father has done anything to create anything. They're having a little conversation. And Father talks about something. He says, you know, we're really richly full of everything that's good in life and love. And it would be really delightful if we could share that with something other than just ourselves. And you know, and one of them says, "Oh yeah, well we've been a long time looking at being with each other. We add a little new something in here, it'd be kind of fun, nice." And he said, "Well, I've been thinking about that, and I can call things that are not as though they were, and they will be there, and then we can be able to see and appreciate that, and even draw them into us." And well, what's your goal? The Spirit asks. What are you wanting to do with all this? What's your idea here? Well, it's all about love. I want to express and create that, and then have that become part of a love exchange. The Spirit kind of squinched his eyes a little bit and said, "Well, that's going." Yeah, her eyes is my. I've just been corrected. That's a good idea, and so in doing that, and thinking that way, what are you thinking, Spirit? What is it that you're wanting to say there? Well, you can't just. How are you going to have something that's really going to be able to be blended, mixed with us, that we'll be able to love? Well, it seems to me that it's going to have to be something in our image and likeness, like we are. And the Word says, yeah, that's good. That would be something I could get into and love if it was like you. And Father says, well, it seems to be a good thing. I can just create something over here that's like us. Well, what does like us mean? Well, certainly means our free will and our sense of being and care and attraction and so on, all of those things. Yeah, okay. And so I can just create that which would have those qualities, and then we can have some love with it. And the Spirit says, I don't know. That's kind of like making something just, there it is, but it's never had any kind of way to understand us, and how are we going to be able to be mixed in with that and be part of that? Footnote. For those of you who are in this modern world and have a little trouble with that, just use the example of a robot. If I make a robot that can do everything I can do, and that's getting to be somewhat conceivable that it could happen one of these days, I can't enter into a deep union with that thing. That doesn't have some qualities, it's missing some things. Spirit says, oh, now I think I understand what you're saying. Now we can solve some of that problem, Father, if we make sure I'm in everything you create. Oh yeah, that's a good idea. You're going to be there anyway, whether you like it or not. How's that? Well, if I make it and create it, I'm going to be a part of that. I mean, things are going to only stay in existence as long as I'm right there with it. Oh, yeah, that means I'd be there too, doesn't it? Yes, that does. And that gives that ability then for us to have something that can be made in our image and likeness. And the Word said, you know, you're complex, and when you speak your word and I become who you are, and we are complex, I don't know if that's going to be quite that simple. And the Spirit again came back and said, look, you just don't quite get it yet, so please understand, when Father creates something here and I'm there, then I can work and stay with that until we can build that up to where we have something that's in our image and likeness. Oh, Well, that's a good idea. Uh, it won't be quick, Father says. Yeah, no, it won't be quick, the Spirit says. It's going to take some time. Well, what's time? Well, that's going to be a passage of a journey of events that will come with creation. Oh, okay. And how much passage time do you think you're going to need, Spirit? I don't know. I'll know when I see what you create. See where this thing starts. And then I'll kind of be able to do that. Well, Father says, you've got a really good idea. We're not in a hurry, are we? Well, I'm not. No, you're not either. Oh, okay. Well, nobody's in a hurry here. So, how about if I really think about this a little bit? I have a hunch that it will be intriguing. Since you're in there, Spirit, doing your part, it'll be really intriguing because then you'll be able to see this thing along and get to where it's going to go. Yeah. Okay. Then I can do something really simple, and you can start putting it all together. Yeah, I think that's good. And what's going to be the element that's going to cause this togetherness to occur? Well, obviously I'm going to love it. It's going to be love. It's going to be your love, Spirit. So and love has got a lot to do with attraction. So what I create is going to get attracted to each other, and pretty soon it's going to be able to develop. Spirit says, I think I'm getting the picture. The only question I got is, I hope you're not in a hurry because I think we're going to spend a lot of time with that. It's going to take a long time to get just some little minimal of anything back to where it's going to start moving toward a creation that will reflect us in image and likeness. Well, that's okay. We've got time. We can do that. Father, I got another issue here, though. What's that, son? I know that whatever you're going to have is going to be good, so speak up. Well, you're going to have to make anything you create is going to be finite. Now, we're infinite, but you can't create infinite because that's us. Yeah, okay. But the finite, by its nature, is not going to be infinite. Well, yeah, it's not going to be us. Okay. What do you see as a problem with that? Well, first of all, the finite's going to have boundaries. Everything that you create isn't the whole of anything. It's going to be part of something. And that boundary thing is going to create some issues here for us. Well, the Spirit spoke up and said, yeah, that's one reason why I wanted to have a lot of time here, because it's going to take time to work those issues out and get things together. Well, okay. But more than that, Father, I see a future problem. Well, what's that, son? That finite's going to have a tendency, because it's not us, it's not going to be infinite in life, it's not going to be infinite in energy, it's going to run out, it's not going to have what we have. Yeah, well, yeah, okay, what's the problem with that? Well, in a way, you're going to be allowing for some difficulties to occur. Not only is the Spirit going to have to work out difficulties of getting everything together and taking time to do that, but it's also going to be a problem that finite is going to be able to cause something we've never dealt with. What's that? Well, things that don't work very good. It's going to be a problem that at times things are not going to function well, or there are going to be some efforts at the Spirit's level might put things together and they fail. And the Spirit goes on to say too. I've noticed what you're saying there. Word logos. I hear what you're saying, and I'm going to introduce another concept that finite's going to bring out that we're going to have to look at. What's that, Spirit? It's death. It's not going to be there. It's not going to be full of everything it had. It's going to stop, and we'll just have to deal with that. And well, the Word said, that just extends what I was thinking. That's good, but I see that as being a problem. Well, what do you mean? Well, we're trying to get this job done and so we can have unity and be in communion with this thing you're creating, Father. And here we are setting up an issue where we've got problems or difficulties or even death. That sounds kind of bad. That sounds like it might not be too good. Well, I don't know any other way to do it. And the Spirit says there isn't any other way to do it. And besides that, son, I've got another insight, the Spirit said. That is going to be there just in the finite. But if we're going to get something up to where we have freedom and choice, and now there's a choice to not be working right. There's a choice not to be in the center. They'll have to have that choice, or if they're going to be like us, they got to be free. Whoa, yeah, that's going to be a problem. And so we probably are going to hear a new word when you do that. What's that? Evil. Oh, yeah, that's something not common to us, so we have to look into what that means. A little footnote. It is really difficult to define evil. And if you haven't tried to do that, just go to the dictionary and start looking up the definition of evil. It goes on and on and on and gets expressed in a lot of different ways, and it covers lots of categories. Pretty soon it's talking about, it almost always starts with a moral evil that is seen as not good and therefore it's called evil. But then it finds its way being extended into things that happen that aren't got a moral issue, that maybe happen to us in nature, and that's called evil too. A flood, an earthquake, or whatever it might be. And it is interesting to try and define and look at this business of evil. Well, back to the discussion here. I've had time to think about it a little bit, Father, and I do think I have an answer. What's that, son? Well, if you're going to be in the midst of this creation, you're going to do it in the Spirit there, I'm going to be there too. And I think my job might just be to see that the limitation, or what we might have to run into even in conscious free choice evil, that I can help to see that gets corrected so that it's worthy of being in us. I can do that from the moment you start creating things. I can start working on that. Wow, that's a good idea. We'll be able to handle this thing if we can get past that. And the Spirit said, you got any ideas, Father, how are you going to do that? And the Father got a little bit quiet and said, well, first of all, you got to know who and what I am too, and what I'm doing for you, son, is I'm pouring myself into you to the point that I'm totally poured out to you, and you receive that, and then return that to me. That's love. That's love at a very rich level, and so the very creation I want to do is coming out of love. Well, it's a good thing to say, Father, and I got to say one thing for you. You got a lot of it. Well, I got more than anything that could be created. Well, sure, because you're infinite, and that's finite. And I'll be pouring love on that. Oh. Spirit said, I just saw something. That's kind of good. What I saw was that even if there's evil that's going to be there, you're going to have poured love on it even before the evil can happen. And then you're going to have the ability, because evil is not infinite, won't be infinite. Because of that, you're going to be able to pour more love on that than there is evil in anything. Oh, that will release me. I was really getting concerned about how I could create things and then be blamed for being the cause of evil. Well, the word says that's not exactly the right word, because in this case you're not the cause, it's the outworking of the finite that it takes to create anything. But you certainly got your bases covered, because one, you're seeing it before it even happens, and you're able to anticipate it. You're not caught off guard by it ever. You won't ever be, even if it's free choice. Well, no, because I would be honoring that free choice. I would be willing to see that. I suppose I should ask, the Spirit said, what's that make you? What's that feel like in thinking about doing that? Well, a couple of things come to my mind. First of all, a deep sadness. That evil would be there, but especially if it's free choice evil. And I'll be in the middle of whatever's going on, so I'm going to feel that sadness. And the Word said, you're right about that. Now I'm going to feel the extra effort and hard work it's going to take to overcome that, to redeem that, or whatever word we're going to use to explain that. Well, yeah. And the Spirit said, but I see a light. I see a beauty that's way beyond anything of evil. That just the love that would do that and willing to take on that is more beautiful than anything I could think of as evil. Looks like we got a good plan unfolding. Let's give this a really good thought.